Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the fascinating world of smart fertility trackers. We're using a recent market research report as our guide here.
Right. And our mission, really, is to take this report, pull out the key insights, and give you a clear picture of, where this market is now, where it's headed.
And what's really driving it, or maybe holding it back.
Exactly. All based on this source material.
Absolutely. So whether you're tracking trends in digital health, maybe you're curious about reproductive tech, or you just find it interesting how these niche markets develop.
Then this dive should be right up your alley. We've got some pretty interesting numbers and shifts to talk about.
Okay, let's start with the big picture then, the overall market size. According to the source, the global smart fertility tracker market was valued at USD 272.84 million back in 2025.
Yeah, a decent starting point. But what's really striking is the growth trajectory the report lays out.
Right.
It projects this market soaring to over $846 million by 2033.
Wow, okay, so basically tripling in size in, 8 years? That's some serious growth.
It really is. The report puts that into a number, a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 15.20% between 2025 and 2033.
15.2%. That's a very strong signal of a rapidly expanding market, especially over that length of time.
Definitely. Double-digit CAGR is always notable.
So what does the report say is fueling that kind of speed? What are the main engines here?
Well, the introduction points to two main things. First, just the general broader trend of people adopting more digital health solutions. We're all getting more comfortable using tech for health.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And second, specifically for this market, there's a growing demand for ways to track fertility that are non-invasive and convenient, easy to use.
Okay, so it's big globally, growing fast, but where is this happening? Does the report break it down by region?
It does, yeah. It gives a good snapshot for 2025. North America holds the largest share. We're talking over 40% of global revenue.
40%. Okay, and the market size there?
USD 100.95 million in 2025. And the report projects its CAGR at a pretty healthy 13.9% through 2033.
Still strong growth. And Europe?
Europe's number 2. Accounts for over 30% share. Market size there was USD 79.12 million.
Okay.
And its projected CAGR is slightly higher, actually, at 14.2%.
Interesting. But you mentioned trajectory earlier. Where's the fastest growth expected?
Yeah, that's Asia-Pacific, APAC. So in 2025, it held around 23% share, about USD 65.48 million.
Right.
But its projected CAGR, it's the highest globally, 18.2% predicted up to 2033.
18.2%, that is incredibly fast. What's driving that boom in APAC specifically?
The source mentions a few things converging, rising infertility rates in some areas, which leads people to look for solutions.
Yeah.
Also, just growing awareness about reproductive health tools in general. And maybe the biggest factor, just the sheer explosion in adoption of smart wearable tech across the region. People already have their watches, the bands.
So using them for fertility tracking is kind of a natural next step?
Exactly. That connection between general tech habits and specific market growth seems key here.
And the report goes even deeper, right? Down to the country level.
It does. It mentions the United States was the largest single country market in 2025. That was USD 79.65 million, with a CAGR of 13.7%. Still very solid.
Okay.
And then within that booming APAC region, India stands out. It's projected to have the fastest country-level CAGR, hitting 20.1% between 2025 and 2033.
Wow, over 20%. Starting from a smaller base, I assume?
Yeah, USD 6.55 million market size in 2025. But that growth rate is significant.
And the report mentions others too, like Germany, UK, China, Brazil.
Right, Saudi Arabia too. It shows this isn't just one or two places. It's a broad trend across different economies, different healthcare systems.
So we have the numbers, the geography. Let's dig into the why a bit more, the forces really shaping this market.
Okay, so beyond that general digital health trend we mentioned, a huge driver is just technology getting better all the time.
Like what specifically?
We're talking artificial intelligence, more sophisticated biosensors, and how smoothly these things integrate into wearables.
And the report explains how that helps, right? Like AI makes the predictions better.
Exactly. Better data analysis, better cycle predictions. Biosensors get more precise physiological data, temperature, heart rate, whatever they measure.
And putting it in a wearable means it just collects data automatically. You don't have to constantly think about it.
Right. Seamless monitoring. The source even points to an example, like a partnership from back in 2021 between Ava, the wearable company, and Wind Fertility.
Ah, okay.
They were focused on using AI insights to help people conceive naturally. So real-world application.
Got it. What other drivers are mentioned?
Well, there's also just a bigger global focus now on reproductive health and family planning in general.
You mean like more awareness?
Yeah, more awareness, government initiatives sometimes promoting health access, and just general advancements in, say, contraceptive tech, including these digital options.
So better tech meets rising awareness and demand.
Pretty much. And layered on top is that desire people have for methods that are easy, convenient, and definitely non-invasive.
But it can't all be smooth sailing. Does the report mention any challenges? Any restraints?
It does flag one significant one: cost. The price tag on some of these smart devices can be pretty high.
Ah, the accessibility issue.
Exactly. That high cost can limit who can actually afford them, especially if you're more budget conscious. And that could potentially slow down how quickly the technology gets adopted broadly.
That's a really important point. Shifting gears a bit. What about the trends within the products themselves? How are they evolving?
A really big trend is the use of smarter and smarter algorithms. We're moving beyond just tracking basic data
Towards what?
towards using AI and machine learning for much more enhanced cycle predictions, really personalized fertility insights.
Right, the report got pretty technical there, didn't it? Mentioning things like
Mm.
ARIMA,
Hey, you have
TL.
neural networks, random forest, gradient boosting. These are essentially powerful ways to crunch historical cycle data, find subtle patterns.
And give the user a much more accurate, personalized forecast of their fertile window. Less guesswork.
Precisely. Making the data useful, actionable. Another huge trend, maybe obviously, is just seamless syncing between the device and your phone app.
That seems standard now for any smart device.
It is, and it's powered by all the tech we hear about constantly: IoT, cloud-based AI analytics, better connectivity like 5G and Bluetooth, making it faster and more reliable.
But that raises questions too, right? Like data privacy.
Definitely. The report notes that security and privacy are still major concerns. Companies really need to get that right to build trust.
Mm-hmm.
The trend also includes making them easier to control, maybe voice commands, gesture controls in the future.
And we're seeing this play out in actual hardware. The report brings up Samsung's Galaxy Ring.
Yeah, that launch, starting mid to late 2024, is a prime example of major tech players integrating this kind of health tracking into popular wearable forms. That could definitely shake up the fertility tracking space specifically.
Makes sense. Okay, let's look at how the market breaks down. Segmentation. First, by utility wearables versus non-wearables. Who's winning?
Well, according to the report, wearable devices definitely dominate the market share right now.
And the reasons seem pretty clear, right? Just the convenience.
Totally. Continuous monitoring, real-time insights. Things like smartwatches, rings, bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
They use those sensors and AI we talked about.
Collect data automatically, day and night, sync it to your app. Minimal effort for the user.
Exactly. But interestingly, the report projects that the non-wearable category is actually the fastest growing segment.
Oh, that's surprising. Why is that?
Well, the report points to similar things like convenience and accuracy. But a big factor seems to be privacy, or maybe discretion is a better word.
Not everyone wants to wear a tracker 24/7 MIG.
Right. So non-wearable options, think smart thermometers you use once a day, maybe saliva-based monitors, or those AI-powered ovulation test kits. They offer accurate tracking without needing to be worn constantly. That appeals to people who prefer that approach.
I see. Okay, so that's the form factor. What about what they actually measure? The application.
Here the report says basal body temperature, or BBT-based trackers, hold the largest market share.
And that's kind of the classic method, isn't it? But enhanced with tech.
Exactly. Tracking BBT is proven for detecting ovulation, and when you combine it with modern sensors and AI for analysis, it's highly accurate. Plus, the report notes they're non-invasive, can be pretty cost-effective, generally user-friendly.
And they appeal to people using natural family planning methods, for instance.
Right. Good app integration, too. But the fastest growing segment by application, that's the urinary luteinizing hormone, or LH-based trackers.
Okay, LH. That's the hormone that spikes just before ovulation.
Precisely. So these trackers detect that surge, which gives a very accurate prediction of ovulation timing.
So high accuracy again.
Yep. Real-time, personalized data based on that specific hormone signal. Like BBT, they're non-invasive, easy to use, good app integration, all driving that rapid adoption.
The report also mentions electrolyte level trackers.
It does, yeah. That's another category that's apparently gaining some traction, though maybe less dominant than BBT or LH currently.
Okay. One more segmentation angle. Where are people actually buying these things? Distribution channels.
According to the report, The online store channel is currently dominant.
That makes sense. You get a huge selection online. You can compare prices easily, read reviews.
Global accessibility, the convenience of home delivery. Plus, lots of brands use online for direct-to-consumer sales, maybe subscription models for test strips or something.
Right. But is that where the fastest growth is?
Actually, no. The report says the fastest growing distribution channel is offline stores.
Really? Bricks and mortar. Why the growth there?
The source suggests it's because some consumers really prefer that hands-on experience. They want to see the device, maybe get a demonstration, ask questions in person.
And get that immediate purchase gratification. Walk out with it.
Exactly. Plus, buying from a familiar place like a pharmacy or even a clinic can build trust. It improves accessibility for people who maybe aren't comfortable buying tech online.
And partnerships probably play a role, like with healthcare providers.
Yeah, the report mentions that, along with localized marketing, helping drive growth in physical retail.
So clearly, as the report notes, this market is growing fast and getting crowded. It lists quite a few key players.
It does. We're talking companies focused specifically on this space, like Clue, Natural Cycles, Ovia Health, Glow, Fertility Friend.
Cycle Technologies, Fertility AI, Kindara, Savinia, quite a few.
Yeah, and then you have the big tech companies like Apple and Fitbit incorporating relevant features.
And as we mentioned, Samsung jumping in with the Galaxy Ring, that really signals how competitive it's becoming.
For sure. And that competition, the report says, is fueled by who has the best AI analytics, the most accurate data, the most user-friendly design.
Plus, navigating regulations, handling privacy properly, and how well these things fit into the bigger digital health picture.
Exactly. It's a complex landscape.
Now, the report also touches on something maybe less obvious geopolitical factors. Specifically, it includes a section titled Impact of Trump's Tariff War. And just to be clear, we're simply reporting what the source material presents here.
Right. Important distinction. So the report states that there was a reintroduction of tariffs back in April 2025.
Okay. And according to this source, what did those tariffs target?
They're described as ranging from 10% up to 46%, and they specifically targeted certain pharmaceutical products, active pharmaceutical ingredients, or APIs.
Medical packaging and machinery, primarily sourced from China and India.
Right. The report then goes on to describe the alleged consequences for U.S. pharmaceutical companies, mentioning generics, biopharma, vaccines, CMOs.
What kind of consequences?
Increased production costs, delays in the supply chain, and various regulatory hurdles. That's what the source claims.
It also mentions retaliation.
Yes. The source states that this action led to retaliatory tariffs from foreign governments, including the EU, which targeted U.S. exports.
Okay. And the report's conclusion on this specific point?
Basically, the source concludes this section by saying that in that kind of environment, market research becomes really critical for companies.
How so?
To navigate the challenges, providing data on pricing, helping identify maybe alternative suppliers, ensuring compliance, finding different sourcing strategies. Again, just relaying the information presented in this specific report.
Understood. Okay, so zooming back out from those dynamics, what are the main sort of big picture conclusions the author draws from this whole analysis?
Well, the core message, summing it up, is that this global smart fertility tracker market is really poised for significant expansion. That projected 15.20% CAGR through 2033 is the headline number.
Okay. Strong growth confirmed.
Yeah. And it reiterates that the wearable segment holds the dominant share currently, driven largely by that consumer demand for real-time continuous monitoring.
Which is made possible by all the tech improvements, AI, better sensors, smartphone integration.
Right. And the final key takeaway highlighted is about distribution. While online is biggest now, the offline store segment is the fastest growing.
Suggesting that desire for in-person advice, demos, and just buying it immediately from a trusted pharmacy or retailer is really strong.
Exactly. That preference is driving significant growth in physical channels.
Well, that was quite a journey through the Smart Fertility Tracker market, all guided by this one report. We've looked at the size, the growth, the key regions,
the tech drivers, the cost barriers, the different types of devices, and where people buy them.
And even touched on those external economic factors mentioned in the source. It's a really dynamic space.
It definitely sits right at that intersection of personal health, cutting-edge tech, and, changing consumer behavior.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. As this market keeps expanding and the technology gets even smarter, even more integrated into daily life, how might these smart fertility trackers actually change things on a bigger scale? Could they impact healthcare access, maybe influence family planning choices, or even shift societal views on reproductive health in the coming years? Something to consider based on everything we just explored.